When he was on our Future Fest stage, he said, boardrooms are full of people who build their careers challenging ideas and showing you what's wrong. When we're busy, it's easier to say no. When we're successful, it's easier to say no. When it's not our department, it's easier to do nothing because it's not my job. I'm not the fence guy. It's not my job. I just put the handicap access signs up. And it's not my job. What do you think I am, a lumberjack? I'm just the line guy, all right? We stay on the path. The way I like to put it is that 1,000,000 years ago, we were hunters. Hunters are nomadic, eat or be eaten. But 10,000 years ago is when people planted the first seeds. And when they did, statistically, that is when we could stay put. Statistically, that's when societies started forming so that we could protect our stuff. And that's great, but it also means that to this day, we repeat whatever led to last year's harvest. We farm. And all of you did your who did your trend hunter assessment? Make some noise if you did your assessment. So you learn a little bit more about yourself. The more you work on stuff, the more you get better. You want to become loyal, consistent, and disciplined to protect it. That's the natural order of how a corporation works. When we all have this. Individually, when we get better, we want to be loyal, consistent, and disciplined to our idea. But that also makes us protective, complacent, and repetitive. The opposite of this is when we try something and we're new, we are curious, we are insatiable, and we are willing to destroy whatever happened in the past because we have nothing to protect. Sure, we're also a bit more distracted, dissatisfied, and reckless, but that's the order of how things go. These are all good. These are all bad. This is how hunting and farming works. And I can keep going on a statistical analysis of some companies that we did, or we could do one with kids playing and all the same lessons. What do you want to learn from? Okay, this is my little nephew Alex, Kyla's other kid. He is the master builder. He's grown up in this picture. He's become a superstar. But let's diagnose some leadership lessons that he shows us. First, we'll watch it together.
Very good. Oh, Allie, don't go by here. That was Alex's tower. Come here, chocolate monster. Come here. Someone's very protective of his tower he just made. Oh, Allie. Oh. Okay, Alex, let's try building it again. Let's try building it again. Yeah.
And back at it with enthusiasm. The master builder is great at his craft. He realizes it becomes consistent. In fact, he wants to keep on building in the same way because he has discipline, even though the structure he's built doesn't support the same style of building. And when the young millennial comes up, he becomes protective. And knowing Allie, I promise you that she is curious, she is insatiable, and I guarantee you she is willing to destroy that castle. But when the little guy is down on his luck and has to start again in the recession of pyramid building, he gets back at it with enthusiasm, knows how to do it, and comes up with a new structure that will be wider, better, faster, and lead to a better tower. Give it up for my little nephew and Lessons from Kids. Now, you've done your individual assessment. Just quick, like, housekeeping note. What's really cool is there's a link there for free to invite the rest of your company. You'll get your overview score, but it's also a lot different because it will show you more depth. This is an example client, and you can see, 500 people went through it, and you can see at this company, they become frustrated when people move too quickly. They think that being too ambitious leads to failure. When someone suggests a new idea, they like to outline all of the risks, and if a regulation seems senseless, they adhere to the rule. All of you will find this when you put your own company through it, but more specifically, you'll see which 4 or 5 things jump out, and then instead of just going to be innovative, you can be much more laser focused with your culture. Everyone wants innovation to happen, but what are you doing to counteract the traps of your own success? Tactics and methods include: be curious, be insatiable, be willing to destroy, ask outsiders for opinions, and simulate starting from scratch. It's always funny to me because people get excited when they hear a certain brand name or a client that will have like NASA or Victoria's Secret, and we'll put them up on the website right away. But realistically, there's another half of clients that are a little bit more like the Plastic Injection Molding Society of America. And it doesn't make the website because I didn't want to brag. But what I find interesting after working in so many different industries is that after, when you're having the beer in the bar with them, everyone from every industry is a lot more similar than you think. And as you collide with different leaders here from all sorts of companies, you're going to realize everyone here, because you're in innovation and creativity, you're a lot more similar than you think, regardless of the industry that you're in. And what actually happened is that the person in the cool job at plastic injection molding picked a major, got a first job, got a promotion, the money started coming in, went to school, decided to come back, stayed a little bit longer, met a guy or girl, stayed in the city, and then pretty soon they're 8 years, 10 years in, and they're making decent cash in plastic injection molding and would make such a sacrifice to switch, they don't want to switch. So your life is the result of a smaller number of decisions than you think. You have certain ways that you can change that. Optionality is the idea that certain choices open up additional options for you in the future, in your life, your career, your kids' life, and for your team. So you can either make decisions that are profitable or not profitable, or you can think a little bit deeper and change your decision-making framework to think about things that are high optionality versus low optionality. The easiest example that you're sitting in right now is that the first few times, especially that we did Future Festival, it didn't make any money because we pour everything back into the event. And if you looked at the numbers, you'd say, don't do Future Festival anymore because it's not profitable. But actually, we get to interact with you, learn from you, befriend you. You tell us the things that you need a little help on, and that allows us to shape our future with you. So that's an example of something you would do for high optionality, not for profitability. So I'm going to get a little more tactical here, because the number one question that we get is people saying some version of, hey, how do I get people to do this stuff in my office? How do I get them to be more innovative? Or what are the steps that I got to do? So I sent out a survey, and I actually got overwhelmed with so much wonderful response. I was so excited. So more than 100 of you did my interview that I sent on Friday where you were trying to pack your bags. I love it. And I was humbled by so many great ideas, but I'll just go through some of the ones that popped out that were neat. So at NASA, Debbie Amato, who's going to be on our stage tomorrow, she actually believes her primary goal is to provide the opportunity for collisions. An example of how she does that is they regularly have poster sessions. You must have your 4-foot by 4-foot poster peer reviewed, so you can't put anything randomly up, but then you come together and you collide with other people in the company while learning what they've been doing. Our client from Staples, Brian, will give you a written permission slip to fail, which means I know you're doing the higher risk project, you're allowed to fail, it won't impact your bonus. Our client Mick at Adidas will host a project funeral to celebrate the idea that didn't work, so you don't keep wiggling it into the next project, but also to celebrate the effort that you put in. Malcolm, who's up next on our stage, we interviewed him, and he said he will watch the opposite news company of his political belief in order to see if he can get himself to be proven wrong. Richard Branson, by the way, I got to interview him a couple times, and that was the best photo because that's where they say, sir, no selfies with Mr. Branson. And then they take your phone. And then they go, don't worry, we captured it from another angle. And the other angle is just me still doing that, getting in trouble. So anyway, he said to increase optionality, the most important factor is to increase passion. You get more passion, and people will give you more ideas. And Steve Wozniak says, be bold, be brave, and deliberately try to think differently. Try to think beyond others. Rosanne Williams is our client from Starbucks, and she recently got promoted, new promotion, not bad, CEO of America for Starbucks. But in Canada is where she was doing her training ground, and one of the favorite things she did is figured out how to get them wine and beer in the stores. And that impacts my actual personal life, so can we give a round of applause for Rosanne? Everyone wants innovation to happen. But what are you doing to develop optionality? Escape your routine, give permission, fuel audacity, force collisions, ignite passion, push limits, and be different. All this brings us to our final section, which is all about discomfort and putting yourself in that position to actually make that decision that leads you to a breakthrough. This guy named Tony, he was pretty similar to a lot of you. He wanted to do something creative. Eventually, he ended up getting a job at Philips. He became Chief Technology Officer of one of their groups and then got promoted to be VP Strategy and Ventures, which is a title very similar to a lot of the titles in this room. While he was there, he got an idea for a gadget. He was excited about it. He presented it. They tried it a little bit, scoped it, but figured, no, it wasn't right for them. He was passionate about this idea, though, so he quit. He quit, and then he tried making his idea anyways in his own startup. But it cost millions of dollars to make a prototype. So after 2 years, he couldn't get someone to fund his development of a prototype, and he had to consider abandoning the idea. So he went to a buddy of his that was a CEO, called up the buddy and said, could I even just work for you? I'm folding the company, but can I work for you and you fund my idea? Would you be interested? And the buddy's company was struggling. They had $500 million in debt and $25 million in the bank. It's a pretty big disconnect. So he told Tony, I'll give you a 2-week contract. If it works, it'll be a month contract, a 2-month contract, a 6-month, but we get all your intellectual property while you're doing it because we have to. We don't have the money to fund this. So Tony does it, turns into a 6-month contract. They make a prototype they spend millions of dollars on. They're so excited. He's got to send it to the boss, but he doesn't want to mail it because it's a multi-million-dollar prototype of his life's work. So he gets on an airplane to deliver it personally to him, gets off the plane and realizes it slipped out of his pocket. So now it's like, no, United Airlines, I have a different level of emergency right now. They figure it out. They reroute the plane back. I don't know how you get them to do that, but you have to say, I think I left my baby on the airplane. Can we get that back here? I'll tell you. Anyway, it's a good thing that he found his lost gadget because his friend was Steve Jobs, his company was Apple, and the idea was the iPod. Tony continued working, and that iPod became an iPhone, which is pretty cool, but everyone else didn't think it was cool. Ballmer, worth $40 billion, said, there's no chance. Meanwhile, Motorola said there's nothing revolutionary about that. The Palm billionaire said they're just not going to figure this out. Nokia, the cell phone king with 1 billion customers, had their chief strategist make comments. I like the guy because he said, with Mac, Apple remained a niche, it'll be the same. And this guy, Ansi Van Joki, puts the joke in Van Joki, because everywhere you look, he's got wicked quotes. They asked him about what happens if we switch to Android, and his quote was, switching to Android would be like peeing your pants for warmth in the winter. It's like, let me know your business problem. I'll reword it for you. Now, I don't want to draw attention to the local hometown heroes. We do have you up in Toronto. But one of the BlackBerry billionaires, he said, actually, with Apple's advertising, customers are now coming into the store, and then they're leaving with a BlackBerry. And so what it actually has done is increased our sales. Which is true, except that it's totally not true. It's one disconnect. So Tony shows us what happens if you persevere, you work through it, you struggle, you recognize your idea can be awkward, and you make those few decisions, you make those pivots in your life, and you figure it out. He then quit Apple and started a thermostat company. People said, why would you leave Apple after founding the iPod to make a thermostat? But of course his thermostat was the Nest, and he sold it for $3.2 billion, and today he runs what is considered one of, if not the largest venture capital incubator out of France to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. Pretty cool story, and it wraps up our lessons of path dependency because we talked about the subtlety of disruption, neurological wiring, the ease of an action, optionality, and breakthrough. To word these different, your next big idea is so much closer than you think, but we make a number of very critical choices in our life, very important ones that send us on different paths. So be asking yourself if you're making the right choices, going on the right path. And as you push, recognize you almost can't go wrong. We're experiencing history's highest rate of change, and there's opportunity everywhere. The only thing that will hold you back is your own neurological wiring and success, because 10,000 years of evolution as farming teaches us to optimize what we have instead of realizing that a little hunt, a little effort can take us well beyond where so many smart teams have overlooked. So to wrap up the lessons in a very final way, I'll reword everything to make them just a little bit more optimistic. To say, you're capable of more than you think. Be open to new ideas. Train your brain. Break free from the path. Push harder. Act sooner. Never give up. And be revolutionary. Thank you very much. If you want to learn more, visit howtowinthefuture.com, and you'll find all of our different resources to help you get inspired. Visit us at one of our epic future festivals, or check out one of my other innovation keynotes online to get better at adapting to change and faster at finding your next big idea.
Getsemaní es el lugar donde la respuesta a la oración es un no. Pero Jesús nos puede entender, porque Él también estuvo allí en Getsemaní.